classmates, before we proceed to our first topic, I hope you are all familiar with the word unicellular. But kung first time niyo makabatihin nga term, unicellular are known as a single-celled organism. A single cell that carries out all necessary life process. So, organisms that are unicellular, uusala ang cell and may ada hera, enough para hera mag-function. These organisms are very small and need to be seen with a microscope. For example, bacteria or amoeba. But when you say multicellular, it is composed of more than one cell. Multiple cells perform different function. May dahiya iba-iba nga gamit ito ng usang organism. For example, iton aton sponges nga ako nagdi-discuss iyo unina. These organisms makikita mo hiya even without microscope. For example, plants, animals, and of course humans. So again, when you say unicellular, it is known as a single-celled organism. But, kung multicellular naman ang organism, composed siya of more than one cell, nga may da iba-iba nga function haiya. I hope klaro before kita mag-proceed hit aton pinakauna nga topic nga ako nagdi-discuss sa iyo yan na. Our first topic is about phylum Porifera or sponges. So kung nabati ka mo itong word ni sponge, ano itong una nga nasa kubdidet iyo huna-huna? Parang maaram na ako. Dishwashing sponge. Asya ba? Especially ha mga agsob masuguan didat era mga panimalay. It una nga masakob didat iyo huna-huna nga sponge is a dishwashing sponge. Tama ba? Yes, it is a sponge, but diri ito na siya nga sponge ito na ako nagdi-discuss sa iyo yan na. Kundi aadhira. The real sea sponges. Oh, ngayon, maram ba ka mo nga yung sponge nga ginuhuna-huna kanina, istikang talaga kunuhiya hiton aton sea sponges. Kay same hera may ada or nakuha ko na itong hiya hatikang hiton mga sea sponges. Ito yung parang design. Again, this is the sea sponges. They have different sizes, colors, and shapes. Sponges belongs or members of phylum Porifera. Porifera means pore bearer in Latin. Sponges are body with pores or tinatawag itong hiya nga ostia. They are the simplest multicellular animals and they are considered as the oldest and the most primitive animal group. Sponges are invertebrates and asymmetrical. Simply because they have no symmetry or patterns, they do not have nerves, eyes, mouth, or internal organs. But still, even without those organs, consider lagi hapon hiya as animal. Sponges also are sessile animals. So, when you say sessile animals, it means that they are attached to a surface. Sponges spend their whole lives attached to rocks. They do not move. So, mas rin ka mo ako niya na. Nga. Mr. Porter, kung itong sponge, diri nakakapag-travel, diri na move, para mamiling itong pagkaon, paano man hira nagsusurvive? Paano man hira nakakakaon? Yes, adult sponge do not move. Talagang attached hira to rocks or to a surface. Pero nakakag-survive hira, nakakakaon hira through the process that is called filter feeding. And we have here the three basic body types of sponge morphology, which is the asconoid, sphenoid, and the leuconoid. The first one is the asconoid, that have a base-like structure with a central cavity. The asconoid and sconoid are similar in shape, but the sconoid possess folds within the body walls, enlarge the surface area, and allow the sponge to take in more food. And the last one are the leuconoids, with their interconnected system of complex canals and chambers. Leuconoids have the largest surface area of all. And now, let us proceed to the anatomy of the sponge. The ostia, kung hain na sakog or naagi itong tubig pasakog nga itong sponges. The osculum, kung hain nagawas itong tubig nga nutrients nga nakukuha tikang dida itong sakog itong sponges. The epithelial cells that serves as the protection, secretion, and absorption. And the last one is the spongiocell, that serves as the central cavity of the sea sponges. The sponge structure are composed of 3 layers. The first one is the pinacoderm. It is the outermost layer of body cells, or pinacocytes, that allows the water to enter. Second is the mesohyl. They help to maintain the tubular shape of the sea sponges by acting as an endoskeleton of the sea sponges. And the last one is the collar cells, or the choanocytes, that pick up tiny food particles or tiny species na gindadara hitong tubig pasakog nga dunitong sea sponges. Below is the cell layers of sponges. The pinacoderm are made of pinacocytes. The ostia are lined by porocytes, the mesohyl are with the amoebocytes, and the choanoderm are with the choanocytes. 3 classifications of phyloporifera includes class Calcarea. This first class are bony sponges, and they have spicules that are made of calcium carbonate. The second classification are the first settlers to colonize many seafloor regions, which is the class Hexaptomida, or also commonly known as gloss sponges. Their spicules are made of silica. The third classification is the class Demospongii. They have skeletons that is composed of silicon dioxide, and they are the most abundant sponges. 80 to 90% of our sponge species are members of Demospongii. And for the fun fact learners, sponges are multicellular colonies, which means they can reform themselves into another sponge. And when a sponge eats, each cell works on its own to digest the food. The sponge's reproduction includes asexual and sexual reproduction. The sexual reproduction involves a larval stage that moves. So when an adult sponge releases sperm cells, ang sperm cell masakob nga duhiton panibago nga sponge. Then ang sperm cell magpe-fertilize into an egg cell, then made-develop ang larva. Once nga ma-develop ang larva, dadadun hiyahan tubig nga dito sa nga area or nga dito sa nga hard surface, ngayon madi-develop hiya into another adult sponge. The asexual reproduction are either regeneration or budding. Outgrowth begins to grow at the base. Then naadaya dida magpapadayon pag-grow, not until ready na hiya. So once nga ready na ano sa nga sponge, kusa na lahiya matatanggal dida ito sa nga adult sponge, ngan maa-attach siya into a new surface or area. Then magiging ganap hiya na hawa nga panibag o nga adult sponge. Sponges also have a great ability to regenerate lost parts and repair injuries. So bisan mo pa ikat ano sa nga adult sponge, once nga tuhera into a new surface, magiging ganap lagi hapon ang imo ginkat nga sponges into a new sponge. Dati, damoy ito nalilibo nga itong sea sponges kuno are considered as plants, but they are not. Sea sponges are considered as animals because they are classified under Phyloporifera of the animal kingdom. They capture their food to eat. They do not have cell walls, and their life cycle involves larval stages. So, masaring kamuha ako nina. Miss Reporter, kung itong mga sponges dirigin ko considered as plants, kaya naman may da mga sponges na color green. Nagiging color green lahara because of the presence of unicellular symbiotic algae. And sponges are considered as animals because they are classified under Paramporifera of the animal kingdom.
Good day everyone, I'm Cedric Alegre from Group 6 and I will be reporting about phylum Cnidaria, the body wall, and nematocysts. So, let us define what phylum Cnidaria is. Phylum Cnidaria is a phylum under kingdom Animalia containing over 11,000 species of aquatic animals found both in the freshwater and marine environment, predominantly the latter. So let's move to the body wall and nematocysts. The body wall and nematocysts are one of the types of phylum Cnidaria. Cnidarians are diploblastic organs that have different layers of tissues. The tissues is made up of cells that perform a specific function. The tissues of cnidarians are organized into two embryological layers. These layers are the epidermis, gastodermis, and mesoglea. Cnidarians have three main embryological layers, which are the epidermis, gastodermis, and mesoglea. Epidermis makes the outer layer of the body, supports the crab surgery, and acts as a sensory cells layer. The gastodermis helps in extracellular digestion of food in the gastrovascular cavity. Mesoglea is in between both epidermis and gastodermis. As you can see, we have an example of the layers in the right side. Let's move to the body wall of Cnidarian. The epidermis and gastodermis have specialized cells that helps in protection, gathering food, coordination, movement, digestion, and absorption. The cnidocytes are cells that produce structure called cnidae and can be in the gastodermis and epidermis. Cnidae are used for attachment, defense, and feeding. Intracellular capsule filled with fluid and is including a coiled hollow tube and is called a cnida. The cnida is closed at one end by upper column cap. Most cnidarians have more than 6 types of cnidae, and there are 30 different types of cnidae. Cnidocytes have a modified cilium called a cnidocell. When the cnidocell is stimulated, the upper column may open. Nematocysts are a type of cnida. Let's move to cnidocytes and nematocysts. Cnidocytes is a exclusive cells have within in a giant secretory organelle called a cnida, which is characteristic of the phylum Cnidaria. And nematocyst is a specialized subcellular organelle present in cnidocyte. Thus, nematocyst is essentially a part of cnidocyte. We also have the example of cnidocytes, and nematocysts in the right side. That's all my reports, and thank you.
For additional information to the report of Mr. Odekta, the alternation of generation is a type of life cycle that switches between two forms. In a sexual polyp, aadadidaan fragmentation and budding, while the sexual medusa, aada naman didaan external fertilization and water. One important characteristic of cnidarians is polymorphism. Their body forms can be classified either polyps or hydroid forms, which also means that they are adapted to sessile life. They have tubular bodies with a mouth, on one end surrounded by tentacles, and an arboreal end that attach to the ground. The sexual medusa are jellyfish forms. They are adapted to floating or free swimming. They are also bell-shaped with the mouth centered and surrounded also by the tentacles.
Class Hydrozoa came from the Greek word hodor means water, and zion means animal. Hydroids have two body forms. One is medusae. It is jelly-like umbrella shape, freely swimming, formed with a mouth and tentacles that face down. The other is polyps, or tube-shaped sacs that have a mouth and tentacles that face up. The medusae and polyps of most hydroids are clear and filmy. Among colored species, the color often comes from the food that hydroids eat. The most common color is red from crustaceans, which are water-dwelling animals such as shrimp that have joined legs and a hard shell but no backbone. Other colors are green, white, orange, yellow, blue, and purple. Hydroid colonies are made up of different types of polyps that work together to serve the entire colony. One type catches prey and defends the colony's territory. Another type takes the prey from the captured defenders and swallows and digests it. A third type of polyp is in charge of reproduction. Hydroids live in all waters habitats, from sea, caves, deep sea trenches, from lakes and ponds to rock coasts and between grains of sands. Hydroid polyps and medusae feed on almost all animals, from plankton or microscopic plants and animals drifting in water to fish. Some medusae remain immobile in the water, their tentacles outstretched, ambushing the prey. Others cruise across the water to catch their prey. Polyps simply extend their tentacles to catch passing prey. They also form currents by moving their tentacles to direct food particles towards their mouth. Class Cyphozoa. Cyphozoans exhibit the main characteristic of syntrians. They have radial symmetry and are diaplastic, meaning that their body wall consists of ectoderm and endoderm, which are separated by mesoglea. They have nematocysts, which are the characteristic of the phylum. Cyphozoan polyps and medusae exhibit no cephalization and don't have brain. But in some species, light-sensitive eye spots are located along the belt margin of the medusae. Cyphozoan medusae is different from those in Hydrozoan because it lacks a velum. Cyphomedusae are commonly known as jellyfish. It locomotes by contracting and relaxing muscles of the belt. Contraction pushes water out, propelling them in jet-like fashion. Nematocysts on the oral arms are used for defense and capturing prey. Cyphozoans, like all syntrians, are all carnivores and some are filter feeders. Many smaller jellies feed on food particles trapped from the water, while larger ones prey on fishes or swimming invertebrates. Coloration in some cyphozoans comes from the gonads or other external structures. The bell of some is deeply pigmented. Cyphozoans can be nuisance to humans when they wash up on beaches or if humans come in contact with them in the water. A sting from a jellyfish can be very unpleasant and may even cause to death.
Good day everyone, I'm Rica Bantilostre and I will going to discuss about class Tubozoa and class Anthozoa. The class Tubozoa was formerly classified as an order in Cyphozoa. Cubozoans are active swimmers and feeders in warm tropical waters. Some possess dangerous nematocysts and cubosons exhibit a unique middle shaft body form. Tubozoa is a type of jellyfish na highly toxic itiya. An sting of tubozoa can be fatal within a minute to human. As nadakit tubozoa into 15 to 25 cm. Basta't yung mga box nga jellyfish nga nakikita natin dito mga pamariguan or dirit dagat, asyet hiyak, it tubozoa. Next is class Anthozoa. Anthozoa or flower animals are polyps with a flower-like appearance. There is no medusa stage. Anthozoa are all marine and good in both deeper and shallow water, and in polar seas as well as tropical seas. They vary greatly in size and may be solitary or colonial. Example hit Anthozoa is yung mga bahay ng mga Nemo, clownfish, known as anemones, and soft corals, tapos stony corals. Tapos, Anthozoa is very important to our deep and shallow waters because Anthozoa help build coral reefs. And next is, there are 3 subclasses of Anthozoa. First is Zondaria or Hexacoralia, containing sea anemones, hard corals, and others. Second is Seriantipataria, containing only tube anemones and thorny corals. When we say thorny corals or black corals, shit na mga starfish yung mga item nga mida niya mga oro spike nga sugit at nakikita pa mga pamariguan. For example, di dahil langagan ngin makatit mga pamariguan nga itera pinaka haralam ng pamariguan pagkatit ni makita kit direct min lalaktan kababtuan asya yung mga starfish nga pero nga nitiyahin gudti nga octopus. Shit. And the last is Alcionaria or Octocoralia, containing soft and horny corals such as sea fans, sea fins, sea panses, and other. Zondarians and Seriantipatarians have a hexamerous plan of 6 or more multiples of 6, or polymerous symmetry, and have a simple tubular tentacles arranged in one or more circlets on the coral disc. Alcinarians are octomorous, built on a plan of 8, and always have 8 pinnate feather-like tentacles arranged around the margin of the oral disc. The gastrovascular cavity is large and partitioned by septa, or mesenteries that are inward extensions of the body wall, where our symptom extends into the gastrovascular cavity from the body wall. Another extends from the geometrically opposite side, thus they are said to be coupled. In Zondaria, the septa are not only coupled, they are also paired. The mesoglea is a mesenchyme containing amoeboid cells. A general tendency towards biradial symmetry in the septal arrangement and occurs in the shape of the mouth and pharynx. There are no special organs for respiration or excretion. And that's it. Good day everyone, I'm Rica Abantilos and I will going to discuss about coral reefs. What is coral reefs? Coral reefs among the most productive of all ecosystems, and they have a diversity of life forms rivaled only by a tropical rainforest. And they are large formations of calcium carbonates or limestone in shallow tropical seas laid down by living organisms over thousands of years. The most important organisms that precipitate calcium carbonate from seawater to form reefs are, first, Coeluractinia, are marine animals in the phylum Cnidaria that build themselves a hard skeleton. Kasi nga nakikita natin dito at mga pinamamarigon yung mga beach nga hugis, part brain nga. Asya, sitiya itsura nga matig adamit hiya. Ira edit picture. And the second is coralline algae. It's a crustose type algae due to its hard calcareous deposit contained within its cell walls. Coralline algae is nagaakdaman hiya as a cement which binds of rep materials into a sturdy structure which will protect from breaking up during intense waves. And the third is hermatypic corals or reef building are those corals in the oral Coeluractinia which build reefs by depositing hard calcareous materials for these skeletons forming the stony framework of the reef. Hermatypic corals require warmth, light, and the salinity of undiluted seawater. These requirements limit coral reefs to shallow waters between 30 degrees south and 30 degrees north latitude and excludes them from areas with upwelling of cold water. These corals require light because they have mutualistic algae living in their tissues known as zooxanthellae. What is zooxanthellae? Zooxanthellae is a colloquial term for single-celled dinoflagellates that are able to live in symbiosis with diverse marine invertebrates including the most fungus corals, jellyfish, and nudibranch. And zooxanthellae are very important to the corals. Their photosynthesis and fixation of carbon dioxide furnish food molecules for their host. They recycle phosphorus and nitrogenous waste compounds that otherwise would be lost. And they enhance the ability of a coral to deposit calcium carbonate. Most importantly, zooxanthellae supply the coral with glucose, glycerol, and amino acids, which are the products of photosynthesis. And in addition to providing corals with essential nutrients, zooxanthellae are responsible for the unique and beautiful colon. To providing corals with essential nutrients, zooxanthellae are responsible for the unique and beautiful colors of many stony corals. Tas kung mawaray zooxanthellae from the corals, it will turn white. Nagbubusag it coral kung nawawaray it zooxanthellae haera. And next is the other types of reefs. First, fringing reefs. Fringing reefs are close to a landmass with either no lagoon or a narrow lagoon between reef and shore. And the second is barrier reef. Runs roughly parallel to shore and has a wider and deeper lagoon than as a fringing reef. Ikatulo is the atolls. Atolls are reef that encircle a lagoon but not an island. Asyit nga pinamamarigo na diret mga sugit beach or resort nga pinaka haraharam nga nalalanguyan. Basta asyit nga maliding itiya pero diri island. And the last is patch or bank reefs. Occur some distance back from the slip, seaward slope in lagoons of barrier reefs or atolls. Fringing, barriers, and atoll reefs have distinguishable zones that are characterized by different groups of corals and other animals. They have a different types of zone of a reef. First is reef front or the forereef slope. The reef front is a more or less parallel to the shore and perpendicular to the predominant direction of wave travel. Asyit didit nagtitingit balod nga didit pagtitingit paglolobo pakadto hit reef crest. Asyit ani kada nga zone of a reef. Reef crest is the bear the greatest force of the waves and most absorb great energy during storms. Dili ang nabubot nga didit picture shit nga nalobo didit nagtitingit pagpupusit balod tapos makusugitit impact. Dida. Tas delikado it kung ikit pupusahan kay paro kitit igwa-washing. And the last is reef flat. Those receive a supply of calcareous material that is eventually broken down into a coral sand. Dira na huhuman it balod tas diret na latay naman ang mga corals or sand nga tikang han kabubot nga anira diran reef crest between reef flat. Reef is not an unbroken wall piecing the sea, but it is highly irregular with grooves, caves, crevices, channels through from the flat to the front, and deep, cup-shaped holes or blue holes. And that's it for coral reefs. Thank you for listening.
I am Dean Juliano C. Bermudo from Group 6, and my topic is about phylum Ctenophora. First, we will discuss about the characteristic of phylum Ctenophora. Phylum Ctenophora, or ctenophores, is also known as comb jellies. Its body is transparent and gelatinous. Parang jellyfish siya, pero hindi siya actually jellyfish. Kasi wala naman siyang stings. Meron itong iba't ibang body shape. Cylindrical, flat, or ribbon shape. Ctenophores can be found in warmer waters. And 75% of each species live in tropical seas. Means most species of ctenophores live in tropical areas in the world. The first characteristic of ctenophore is that it has biradial symmetry of its internal canals. So, what do we mean first by biradial symmetry? So, masasabi natin na biradial symmetry ang isang bagay kung pwede natin to i-divide into two planes. In the illustration, the arboreal view of Bolinopsis vitrea has a biradial symmetry. Because when two planes pass into that view, same image yung itsura na makikita natin doon sa part na i-divide. Combination of radial and bilateral symmetry of paired tentacles. So, there are two illustrations. First is the tentacular plane view. In tentacular plane view, it is considered as radial symmetry. Because radial symmetry is the type of symmetry can be divided equally in many planes. As we can see dito sa illustration, yung tentacular plane view ng Bolinopsis vitrea could be divided into three planes. That's why it is considered as radial symmetry. Second illustration is the stomorial plane view. So, stomorial plane view is considered as bilateral symmetry because this view could only be divided equally in one plane. So, stomorial plane view is considered as bilateral symmetry because this view could only be divided equally in one plane. So, as we can see in the illustration, may isang plane lang yung naghahati equally sa view kaya siya naging bilateral symmetry. Second characteristic is ctenophores are ellipsoidal or spherical in shape. So, ellipsoid is the three-dimensional form of an ellipse. It has radially arranged rows of comb plates for swimming. So makikita natin sa illustration na yung row ng comb plates is radially arranged. Means it has equal numbers. It is said that merong 8 rows of comb plates yung ctenophores. And then, yung comb plates naman is yung small plates na nasa loob. So, nagmo-move yung small plates na yan, kaya nakakapag-swim yung ctenophores. Ctenophores is diploblastic, but some researchers consider it as triploblastic, with a mesoderm. Their body is a columnate and diploblastic, having ectoderm and endoderm. The body wall has outer epidermis, inner gastodermis, middle jelly-like mesoglea, with scattered cells and muscle fibers. So, Ctenophora may also be considered as triploblastic. Its digestive system consists of mouth, pharynx, stomach, canals, and anal pores. It has statocyst that acts as nervous system. It controls the activity of the comb rows and mouth. Ctenophores are not polymorphs and dimorphs because every class and order in ctenophores have its uniform appearance. They are also monoecious animals because they have both male and female reproductive system. So they could reproduce both sexually and asexually. They are luminous animals. What caused them to be luminous? When the cilia beads, light is scattered, reproducing a rainbow of colors. The beating comb act like a prism breaking the light into its color components. So now, we will move to the classification of phylum Ctenophora. The first classification of phylum Ctenophora is the class Tentaculata. So, the primary characteristic of class Tentaculata is that they possess tentacles. Some of them have tentacles that has sheaths. Kung makikita natin sa illustration, yung Cdipida, meron sheaths yung tentacles niya. Yung sheaths is yung parang blades na makikita nyo sa tentacles niya. So, sometimes of them is flattened in their oral-aboral axis for creeping. Yung Platycitinida, yung body niya is flat horizontally. That causes them to creep. And some of them are compressed in their tentacular plane to a band-like form. So, ito yung kabaliktaran nung nauna. Flat siya horizontally that cause them to look like a ribbon or band. So, sometimes may be confined into larval form. So, yung tentacles niya is nakapaloob doon sa loob ng body niya. The second classification of phylum Ctenophora is the class Nuda. So, class Nuda doesn't possess tentacles. It is flattered in tentacular plane. It has wide mouth and pharynx. And its gastrovascular canal is much branched. Now we will move to the comparison of phylum Ctenophora to phylum Cnidaria. So first, their similarities, they both forms of radial symmetry means that they could divide it equally in many planes. They have oral-aboral axis. So, yung oral-aboral axis is parang yung pinakaulo ng animal na dome shape. They have well-developed gelatinous ectomesoderm. No coelomic cavity. So, the coelomic cavity is a cavity that serves as a skeleton. Both cnidarians and ctenophores don't have skeletons. They have diffuse nerves, plexus, so it means that their nerves is all over their body that allows them to respond in stimulus. So, they also lack in organ systems. So, hindi lahat ng organs ay present both phyla. Next is their difference. So, ctenophores don't form nematosis. So, ctenophores don't use poison when capturing their prey. They do not sting. The development of muscle cells is in mesenchyme. Ctenophores have comb plates and coloblast. They are mosaic or determinate with type of development. It has pharynx and no polymorphism and dimorphism. Ctenophores are never colonial and they have anal openings. And that's all for my report. Thank you for watching.
Reproduction and development. Most animals reproduce through sexual reproduction, but some animals are capable of sexual reproduction through parthenogenesis, budding, or fragmentary. The characteristic of Ctenophora: presence of 8 convoluted for locomotion, absence of nematoxicity, and presence of coloblast of lasso cell on the tentacles for the capturing food. Ctenophora reproduction. Ctenophora are both male and female reproductive organs, and a very few species can reproduce sexually. The common name of a seagull bears a small jellyfish-like creature. They feed on other small planktonic animals such as arrowworms. Arrowworms, called Shaniconat, member of group of free-living worm-like marine carnivores that belong to the invertebrate family. Three characteristics of Ctenophores are readily symmetrical. They are free-living marine organisms. They are diploblastic. They possess 2 embryonic layers in ectoderm and endoderm. They are acolymnates. They do not have body cavity. What are the similarities and difference between cnidarians and ctenophores? Cnidarians exhibit radially symmetry, whereas ctenophores exhibit radial semestry both content tentacles surrounding their mouth. The main difference between cnidarians and centiforous is their body symmetry. Gastrovascular. The gastrovascular cavity is the primary in two major animals, the colinterites or cnidarians, including jellyfish and corals, and Philinihelminthes, and the intravascular cavity is the mainly involved in the digestion and circulation. Embryogenesis is the process of initiate and development of embryo from a zygotic embryogenesis or a somatic cell. Embryo development occurs through an exceptionally organized